Hello, hi. My name is Mohan Raj Balakrishnan, and this short video is to present my project for the QAA, which is the Personalised Learning Unit within the Malaysia Foundation Programme. To sum it up, this project is about development of a Personalised Learning Unit Framework, which hopefully, once I'm done with it, we could apply it, extend it to all the other programs and courses that runs within the Heriot-Watt University. That would be my ultimate goal. Okay, going into the details, the main aims and objectives. To fit the theme as well, it's to enable smooth transition from the structured high school teaching to the university-style learning environment. Here in the foundation program, one of our key challenges, which is what I will talk about in a bit, is the transition itself. It's also meant to enhance the student learning experience through the use of technology that is already available within Heriot-Watt University, to give us a slightly different method of delivery. It's also mainly to encourage self-paced independent learning. I would say one of the key uniqueness of the PLU would be the self-paced independent learning. So it's not just any independent learning, it is a self-paced independent learning. It also enables self-assessment. Students will self-assess, students would have to take actions on the outcomes of the assessments. Obviously, then it encourages the use of technology and innovative teaching resources by the lecturers. One of my hopes is lecturers would be able to adapt PLU, and this would increase their involvement in using online platforms to deliver some parts of their courses, otherwise it would be delivered in a conventional manner. It also enables identification of appropriate remedial support to be provided for students based on the assessment on learning outcomes. Simply means remedial support to be given to only those who truly need it. In that way, we will be able to give better attention to the students who obviously would need our help, rather than just directing it to the entire class. Okay, why PLU? So one of the ideas for PLU came from the fact that we do face some of the challenges in the current education system. And some of this is directly applicable to us as well. We have a one-size-fits-all. For example, we have lectures, we have tutorials, we have a rigidly designed course that's delivered to all the students. But we all know that students come with different talents, different ability to learn. Some learn fast, some learn slow, some takes a little bit longer to absorb facts. But having a very structured way of delivery, for example, 2 hours of lecture, 2 hours of tutorial, and you have to understand this much of content within that 2 hours and be able to perform the questions and answer the questions within the next 2 hours. When we move on to the next week, ideally we start a new topic. So this obviously doesn't work. It's very evident, and as lecturers, we do know students, a large number of students, they struggle with this concept. Increasing difficulty in engaging students. Yes, this is an issue that's faced by most of the lecturers, and I think this issue is becoming more prominent these days. It's difficult to engage students in a conventional classroom setup, or be it a lecture room setup. Students are finding it difficult to keep their attention going on, especially the current generation, because the current generation is so used to an interactive interface. That's what captures their attention. They do not want a single stream of information. They very often prefer to absorb information in a very interactive way. Lack of student ownership. So right now, we always push the students to take up ownership in their academic progress. And it's a bit difficult to have a conventional structure, but when we want the student to take ownership in the academic progress, the student is still very much dependent on the lecturer, on the lectures, and the tutorial to ensure that they are able to achieve the learning outcomes. I think the conventional structure doesn't let go too much, doesn't shift a lot of responsibility to the students yet. It kind of hinders students in taking ownership of the academic progress. Of course, it's also PLU is also meant to move away from a teacher-centered model and shift towards a student-centered pedagogy model. And of course, underutilization of technology in teaching. There are institutions that do not have access to technology, and then there are institutions that do have access to technology, such as the VLE, and yet it is underutilized. Even in HWU, in some courses, VLE is merely used as a file sharing site, upload lecture slides and just for students to download it. I think it is able to do far better. This is just one feature that I would like to tap into. Okay, a little bit about MFP in Heriot-Watt University Malaysia. So the courses are delivered in lecture tutorial mode like the rest of the university, but our students are largely from national high schools. National high schools deliver a teacher-centered teaching and learning environment. Students are very much used to receiving most of their information directly from the teacher. We could also say they are very teacher-dependent. They struggle when they move into university, and right in the first semester of the foundation program, we already deliver contents of our courses in a lecture tutorial mode. Sometimes they get introduced to independent learning in a very rude manner. That's rather shocking for them, and they would feel like they would have to resort to the Google in order to get most of the information. And obviously, when they arrive at Google, the variety of information, the overwhelming information that they would be able to find would further confuse them. This kind of moves them away. Then there are students who remain unable to adapt, unable to achieve the learning outcomes because they feel like they do not get enough support from the teacher. It's also partly because they are so used to teacher-centered learning. Now, most students also struggle with the very idea of independent learning. So independent learning has to be packaged. It has to be very well guided. It is not just placing a topic out there and or isolating a particular topic and say, this topic is independent learning. You guys have to study it on your own. So I thought PLU would be a method to package independent learning in a way that students are able to handle it, and not just handle it, are able to enjoy it and continue to achieve the learning outcomes that we have isolated for them. So this is briefly how I have done it. We start by identification of the key learning outcomes. The learning outcomes has to be selected carefully. You have to ensure that when you identify learning outcomes that's going to be in PLU, it should not affect delivery of the weeks that comes after that. For example, if I take a particular learning outcome that is meant to be delivered in week 3, I should be able to take that learning outcome and package it in my PLU and give it to the students so that they can take their own time to learn it. But it should not affect the learning in week 4 or week 5. Students should be able to take their own time or within the time frame that we can allocate for them to complete that learning outcome. So that's very crucial. It's the most important part. That's the first part of the project. And then obviously second part would be creation of a module within Vision. So I will go into Vision and show you in a bit how I've done it. This part, number 2, is probably the most time consuming part. I would advise a lot of time to be dedicated to this part, where resources should be populated according to the learning outcome. It has to absolutely follow the learning outcomes. You have to select appropriate learning activities, appropriate resources, and a variety of resources is encouraged: videos, animations, games, simple question and answers, or a mini quiz within the VLE is encouraged. Then obviously we have to embed checkpoints within the PLU. The checkpoints would serve as the points in which we would personalize learning. So when a student attempt a checkpoint, they would self-assess to see if they have met the learning outcomes, if they have achieved the learning outcomes. The point at which they don't, they would come to you for help. So you have to make that very clear to the students. So they come to you for help, or they could watch the video again, or they could look for another video and try to master it. So at the point where they come to the lecturer, we could either group a certain number of students who have the same issues and conduct a mini workshop to address this problem. See, in this manner, students who have achieved that particular learning outcome would just move on to the next thing in the PLU, whereas students who obviously struggling with that would be getting the right attention from the lecturer. So in this manner, I would be able to personalize the level of help that I need to give to the students with lower level of skill compared to students who are obviously much advanced than the rest. The perk for the student who are obviously much advanced than the others with the ability to complete this much sooner than the rest, and then can shift their focus on learning other things. So that would also encourage the advanced level of students to progress much faster. Intervention is crucial here. Intervention would also be the part where you would give your personalized support. So intervention could vary. There are many different kinds of intervention that can be done. Some of the intervention that I'm going to do is workshops, remedial supports, one-to-one consultation for students who are struggling to achieve the learning outcomes. The idea is each intervention has to be carefully planned, has to have enough support teaching resources. You have to be very clear that you do not overlap with what's already planned within the PLU. The intervention has to be a facilitated learning session. It should not be a teacher-centered session. We are not going to go in and teach them that concept. Rather, we're going to facilitate their learning of that particular learning outcomes using any resources that would allow the students to progress on their own, but with our guided support. I'm going to go and move into this is the current folder that I'm teaching is Chemistry 2A. It's a semester 2 course in Foundation Science. So we move into the learning materials. So you can see this is where I usually upload my files for the students, the lecture slides and tutorial. So there's a folder here created as Personalized Learning Unit. This folder has been made available for students. So I'm just going to shift into student view. That takes a while. Okay, so it's gone back out. So this is a student preview, so you will be able to see what the student sees. Personalized Learning Unit. So the student will click and they'll come to this page. This page would basically give them the idea of what this Personalized Learning Unit. Remember, I only launched this Personalized Learning Unit after I've presented the concept to them. I've told them how what it means by learning at your own pace. It doesn't mean that you can take 3 years to learn this. Obviously, the whole program is only 1 year, and this particular course only runs for 13 weeks. So when we say you learn at your own pace, they decide the pace, but it is still within the time frame of that semester. So they will decide how and when to execute the activities and assignments. They self-assess, they decide appropriate actions that's required to improve the understanding. The appropriate action, you have to make it also clear that it could also mean setting up a consultation with the lecturer. The students get to decide when they want to take the final assessment, and in this PLU that I've designed for them, I have allocated 5% of that particular semester when they attempt the assessment. So we can go in now to view this. So this is, you could see that I've created 17 page. So student will move page after page. So I've started off with the learning outcomes so that the students are very clear in what are the outcomes that they have to achieve. So in this, I've selected 5 learning outcomes. I made it as simple as possible. It's very important you write your learning outcomes in simple language that the students can understand, and we make the verbs very clear. So in this case, for example, write electronic configuration of the D block transition metals, or you could say calculate different oxidation states. So the verb is very clear, so students are assured. And in this part is as well, in addition to this, students may also use their textbook. So if you do have a main text for your course, I would suggest that you identify the pages that might be useful for the students in case if they want to do prior reading before they start their personalized learning unit. So as you could see here, they could move page after page and go to resources. So for example, I'll just show you one. I'm not going to go through all 17 pages. I'll just go to key pages. Like I have an introduction video. So if I go to the first LO1, you can only go page after page. So there's a video. They could watch this video. I will clearly specify the learning outcomes for each resource that you're going to place here, so the student would know what is the target. So I'm going to watch this video. This is a Khan Academy video, so I'm going to watch this. What am I learning from this? So as you progress, so another video, same learning outcome, so they know that, okay, I watched this and what is my target. In case if I didn't understand the first video, then this video might be giving me additional information. But if the student feels that, okay, I understand this, they can choose to skip this video. This particular video that I've put in is I've made it for them myself using a screen capture technique. And then they will arrive at a checkpoint. Checkpoint is basically questions. They would attempt these questions. The exercise also, the checkpoint should also address what are the learning outcomes that they are trying to assess. They attempt the questions, and then when they move to the next page, it will show them the answers. This is the part where they will self-mark. And this is the part where they have to check if they have, if they've got it all right, and they got most of it right, and they understand what their mistakes, they would move on to the next page and go to the next resource and start learning the other learning outcomes. But if they think that they're stuck here, they don't know what is the mistake, or they have a huge problem understanding what was delivered in this part, then that's when they would arrange a consultation, or if you have more than 5 students, for example, you could conduct a mini workshop just addressing these learning outcomes. You could facilitate their learning. I personally use Yenka. Yenka is a learning resource that's made for higher and advanced higher of chemistry, mathematics, and physics. So I use it for chemistry. At the moment, it is free, so we could just load it in our laptop, and we can conduct a mini workshop using that, and it's been really useful. So this is basically it. What you don't see is the last checkpoint here. After checkpoint 4, the checkpoint 4 requires a submission. It's a hard copy submission. Student will have to download this. They will have to print it. And I've set time. They have to sit and answer the questions within the given time, and they would submit the hard copy to me. Now, the last checkpoint does not carry marks like any other checkpoints, but it would give me an idea. Have the students met all the learning outcomes, or have they progressed properly? In the event that if I see that the checkpoint 4, the student is struggling with major concept, then I would conduct one last workshop for the students. So the last workshop would roughly be in like 2 weeks before the whole PLU ends. In this case, the PLU ends in week 13, so the workshop would go live on hopefully in week 11 or week 12, depending on the number of students that would qualify for the workshop. Of course, students who have done really well, students who have probably score really well in the last checkpoint, or who have met the major outcomes, I would encourage them to take the final test. The final test is not here because I've not made it available for the students yet. So once I make it available, students will be able to access it. Remember, the test kit only be made available once the student has submitted the final checkpoint and you have agreed the student is ready to face the test. And once they sit for the test, they'll be able to, this test is True Vision, they will answer True Vision, and another score will be given to them. And that completes the personalized learning unit. So they have learned at their own speed. They would have to take ownership of their learning, this obviously gives them the freedom and the flexibility to choose the kind of resource they want, and mainly to learn at their own pace. So I'm going to exit the preview. Okay, so I think that's about it. I'm quite unsure on what was supposed to be the content of this video, so I think I wanted to do a quick one, and I wanted to briefly describe what's the project is about. So if you have any questions, you guys can email me. I think Irene would have my email, but I'll try my best to respond to it. And I believe once a project completes and we have student input, I would be able to present something that is probably a little bit more detailed than what I've presented today. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.